The PS5 has quietly built a seriously strong lineup over the past few years. We're now at the point where there are plenty of games that truly take advantage of the hardware. So if you're wondering what's actually worth your time on the console, here are some of the best picks available right now.
He grabbed you for a reason.
Resident Evil Requiem is a wild mix of slow-burn survival horror and full-on zombie mayhem, and honestly, it mostly works. The early hours are genuinely terrifying. Playing as newcomer Grace Ashcroft, you're underpowered, low on ammo, and constantly creeping through tight, puzzle-filled environments where every shadow feels dangerous. It's classic Resident Evil tension at its best. But once Leon enters the picture, the game shifts hard into action. His sections are louder, faster, and way more explosive, with huge weapons and some seriously over-the-top boss fights. The downside? The balance isn't perfect. The second half leans a bit too heavily into action, and the lack of extra modes like mercenaries is definitely noticeable. Still, with strong atmosphere, disgusting enemies, and two very different playstyles, Resident Evil Requiem delivers a horror experience that stays fun from start to finish.
Begin for me.
The city's being torn apart.
Spider-Man 2 is bigger, faster, and more cinematic than ever, and for the most part, it absolutely sticks the landing. This time you're switching between Peter and Miles, and the dual Spider-Man setup keeps the gameplay feeling constantly fresh. Swinging through New York is smoother than ever, thanks to the new web wings, and honestly, traversal alone is still one of the best feelings in gaming. Combat also gets a serious upgrade. Peter's symbiote abilities hit like a truck. Miles still brings the electric swagger, and fights feel more aggressive and flashy across the board. The story goes darker too, with Kraven and Venom raising the stakes in a big way. Not every side activity is groundbreaking, and the open world can feel a bit familiar if you played the first game, but the pacing and spectacle carry it hard. In the end, Spider-Man 2 doesn't reinvent the wheel. It just makes almost everything better. And sometimes, that's exactly what you want from a sequel.
Hey, man.
Honor.
Mafia: The Old Country marks a focused return to the roots of the series, taking players back to Sicily and the early days of organized crime. And for the most part, it delivers the grounded mob story fans were hoping for. Instead of chasing a massive modern open world, the game leans into atmosphere and narrative. The early 1900s setting is beautifully realized, with dusty towns, rural landscapes, and strong period detail that really sells the world. The story is where the Old Country shines brightest. It's a slower, more character-driven rise through the Mafia ranks that feels much closer to the original Mafia than Mafia 3 ever did. Gameplay, however, is a bit more mixed. While the core shooting and driving feel solid, mission variety and side content can feel somewhat limited over time. Still, if you came here for a cinematic crime drama with strong atmosphere and classic Mafia vibes, The Old Country is a compelling return to form for the series.
Is this true?
Clair Obscur Expedition 33 doesn't look like most RPGs, and it doesn't really play like them either. Right away, the art direction grabs you. The world has this surreal, painterly style that gives every area a slightly dreamlike mood, and it does a lot to separate the game from the usual fantasy crowd. Combat is where things get interesting. It's technically turn-based, but the timed inputs and defensive reactions keep you constantly involved. Instead of just picking commands and waiting, you're actively engaged in almost every exchange. The story swings big emotionally and leans into mystery, although the pacing can wobble a bit as new systems slowly unlock. Even with those bumps, it feels refreshingly different. The kind of RPG that clearly wants to experiment rather than just follow the safe path.
Who are you?
I have a debt to settle.
Assassin's Creed Shadows takes the franchise to feudal Japan, and the setting alone does a lot of heavy lifting. What really keeps things interesting is the contrast between its two playable leads. Naoe is built for patience, quiet movement, clean assassinations, and some of the most satisfying stealth the series has had in years. The world itself is gorgeous. Seasonal changes and dense environments give exploration a strong sense of place, and just moving through Japan can be rewarding on its own. Where Shadows stumbles a bit is in familiarity. The open-world structure and side activities still follow a formula longtime players will recognize immediately. But thanks to its strong atmosphere and the dual playstyle approach, Assassin's Creed Shadows still stands out as one of the more engaging recent entries in the series.
I recognize that dour expression anyway.
God of War Ragnarok picks up the story with confidence and reminds you why the first game worked so well. Combat feels heavier and more flexible, with the Leviathan axe and Blades of Chaos offering more build variety and smoother flow in fights. Encounters demand real positioning and timing, especially on higher difficulties, which keeps battles engaging throughout the long campaign. Narratively, Ragnarok goes bigger in scale, but wisely keeps its emotional core front and center. The relationship between Kratos and Atreus continues to carry the story, giving the massive set pieces real weight behind the spectacle. The world design is also more varied this time, with side content that actually feels worth pursuing instead of simple filler. It may play things a bit safe structurally, but thanks to its polish, strong performances, and consistently satisfying combat, God of War Ragnarok stands as one of the most confident action-adventure sequels in recent years. Death Stranding 2 doubles down on what made the original so unique, but this time, it feels far more confident in its delivery. At its core, the game is still about traversal and connection, but movement is smoother, tools are more versatile, and moment-to-moment exploration feels less clunky than before. Planning routes across the harsh environments remains deeply satisfying, especially when your preparation pays off. Combat and stealth have also seen meaningful improvements. Encounters are more dynamic, giving players more freedom in how they approach threats without losing the series' deliberate pacing. Narratively, Kojima once again leans hard into the strange and emotional, delivering a story that's equal parts confusing and compelling. It won't land for everyone, but it's undeniably memorable. Death Stranding 2 doesn't abandon its weird DNA. It refines it, making this sequel feel more focused, more playable, and ultimately more rewarding to stick with.
Find every last member.
Ghost of Yoti builds on the foundation that made Ghost of Tsushima so beloved, but it pushes the formula in some smart new directions. Moment-to-moment combat remains the highlight. Sword fights are fast, precise, and incredibly readable, rewarding timing and patience rather than button mashing. At the same time, stealth options feel more flexible this time around, giving you more freedom in how you approach enemy camps and encounters. Exploration is where the game really shines. The new northern setting feels harsher and more dynamic, with weather and terrain adding extra atmosphere to every ride across the map. That said, some open-world activities still follow familiar patterns, and longtime fans will recognize parts of the structure immediately. Even so, Ghost of Yotei delivers a confident evolution of the formula, refining what worked before, while giving players just enough new tools and challenges to keep the journey engaging.
I found something new to live for.
Why'd you defect?
Metal Gear Solid Delta sticks very close to the original game, and for the most part, that works in its favor. At its core, this is still the same stealth-focused experience, but modern visuals and smoother controls make it far more approachable today. Sneaking through dense jungles feels more immersive than ever, and the updated presentation gives classic moments a fresh layer of intensity. What stands out most is how deliberate the gameplay still feels. You're encouraged to observe, plan, and adapt rather than rush in, which keeps the tension high throughout each mission. Its commitment to the original design means some mechanics and pacing may feel old school to newer players. Even so, Delta succeeds where it matters most, preserving the identity of a stealth classic, while giving it the technical upgrade it deserved. Black Myth Wukong is one of the most visually impressive action games in recent years, and thankfully, it's more than just a pretty showcase. Combat is the clear highlight. Fights are fast, demanding, and heavily timing-based, rewarding players who learn enemy patterns and use the staff abilities wisely. Boss battles in particular are the main attraction, with creative designs that constantly test your reflexes and patience. The world itself is rich in atmosphere, pulling heavily from Journey to the West, with striking environments and strong enemy variety that keeps the adventure feeling fresh. Difficulty spikes and some uneven pacing can occasionally slow the momentum. But when the systems come together, the game delivers tough, satisfying battles that will keep action fans locked in.
There's the strength.
Horizon Forbidden West builds confidently on what Zero Dawn started, delivering a bigger world and more refined combat without losing the series' identity. Exploration is easily one of its strongest aspects. The western regions are dense, colorful, and packed with detail, and new traversal tools make moving across the map far more fluid than before. Combat also sees meaningful upgrades. Fighting machines feels more tactical thanks to expanded weapon options and better enemy variety, pushing you to constantly adapt your approach instead of relying on one strategy. The story continues Aloy's journey with higher stakes, though the pacing can drag a bit in the middle and some side activities feel familiar if you played the first game extensively. Still, Forbidden West succeeds as a polished open-world sequel that improves the moment-to-moment gameplay while delivering another visually stunning adventure. Kingdom Come: Deliverance 2 sticks closely to the realistic RPG formula the first game was known for, but this time it feels far more polished and confident. The world is bigger and more reactive, and your choices during quests have clearer consequences that make role-playing feel meaningful. Exploration remains slow and grounded, rewarding patience rather than rushing from objective to objective. Combat still demands commitment. Sword fights rely heavily on timing, positioning, and stamina management, which can feel challenging at first but becomes satisfying once it clicks. Narratively, the sequel continues Henry's journey with stronger pacing and more cinematic presentation, while still keeping the grounded medieval tone intact. It's not the most accessible RPG out there, but for players who enjoy deep immersion and realistic systems, it offers a rewarding medieval experience that stays true to its roots.
Make every shot.
The Last of Us sets its tone early and never really lets up. From the opening hours, the game leans into emotion and tension, building a journey that feels grounded despite its post-apocalyptic setting. This isn't just about surviving infected, it's about the cost of survival and the people caught in the middle of it. Gameplay reinforces that mood. Resources stay limited, stealth is often the smarter play, and most encounters carry real danger if you get careless. The pacing benefits from that constant pressure. What truly drives the experience, though, is the evolving bond between Joel and Ellie. Their relationship develops naturally across the journey, giving the story genuine weight. Years later, The Last of Us still stands as one of the most impactful narrative action games of its era. Astro Bot is pure fun in a way few modern platformers manage to capture. From the moment you start, the game leans fully into creativity, constantly throwing new ideas, mechanics, and playful surprises your way. Movement feels incredibly tight and responsive, which makes every jump and gadget satisfying to use. The level design is the real star, though. Stages are packed with clever set pieces and small interactive details that keep the experience feeling fresh from start to finish. The DualSense features also add a lot to the immersion, giving each action a bit more personality in your hands. It's not an especially difficult platformer, but that accessibility works in its favor. Astro Bot is a joyful adventure that understands exactly what makes platforming fun in the first place. Nioh 3 builds on the series' fast, technical combat while making smart changes that smooth out some of the older rough edges. Fights remain the main draw. The stance system is still deep and rewarding, and mastering timing, key management, and enemy patterns feels just as satisfying as fans would hope. At the same time, movement and general responsiveness feel more refined, making encounters flow a bit more naturally than before. Enemy variety stays strong, and the tougher boss fights continue the series' tradition of demanding real focus and patience. Outside of combat, progression systems are a bit cleaner, though the loot-heavy structure can still feel overwhelming at times. Even so, Nioh 3 delivers exactly what its audience is looking for, a challenging, skill-driven action RPG that rewards players willing to learn its systems. Gran Turismo 7 knows exactly who it's made for, and it rarely tries to be anything else. The moment you start driving, the focus is obvious. Cars feel planted, braking zones matter, and clean laps require real concentration. It's less about wild arcade moments, and more about gradually shaving seconds off your time through better lines and smarter throttle control. There's also a strong appreciation here for car culture itself. The garage, customization options, and detailed vehicle models all reinforce that love for automotive history and engineering. The early grind and credit economy can test your patience, especially if you're chasing specific cars. But if you enjoy disciplined, methodical racing and the satisfaction of mastering a track corner by corner, Gran Turismo 7 stays deeply rewarding long after the first few races. And that's the list. If you enjoyed the video, drop a like and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching. See you on the next one.